Tell me again how Amy got that book deal.
Well, I didn't hear all the details about the book deal, so start there first.
Well, so Amy's obviously she's anointed to write, and she's written all of her life. I mean, she's written like
good.
like little children's books and stuff like that, but she's never really taken it serious and said, you know what, I'm really going to make this into a book. Well, the short story about when I brought her home from her job, and things settled down after having Tyler Jr., she said, all right, I'm going to get this book out of me. And so she basically cranked out Fairy Tales Do Come True, which is a fiction book. And the book basically, I mean, she finished it up probably within, I'd say it took her like not 9 months. Yeah, I'd say about 9 months to write it, but really she wrote it honestly in about 4, because she was kind of poking around with it. Then all of a sudden the Holy Spirit kind of got on her and said, hey, you really need to finish this. And so she buckled down. She wrote an hour and a half every morning before Tyler Jr. got up. And so basically she finished the book. Well, she went to this writers conference thinking that she was going to kind of get signed by a publisher, and it's like a women's writers conference or something like that. It's up in North Carolina. Didn't happen for her, and so it kind of took a little bit of the wind out of her sails, and she just kind of set the book aside. And she actually she was blogging as well. She's had a blog for a long time, and so fast forward now 4.5 years later, God says, hey, Tyler, I want you to start this podcast. So I started the podcast 1.5 years ago. Well, less than that, actually, 14 months ago. I'm doing it, and finally I decided to take it serious. And lo and behold, Darren Shearer, reaches out to me and asks me if I would actually be interviewed on his podcast, the Marketplace, Marketing Like Jesus podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And
hey
Jack, or Jason, I apologize.
Hi.
How you doing, Jason?
I'm doing fine.
Good, he got on.
Glad
Good.
to get in just in time.
Yeah. So somebody else just popped in too.
So
I'll finish. I apologize.
Yeah.
So anyway, so Darren reaches out to me to be on his show and be interviewed on his show, Marketing Like Jesus podcast. So I get interviewed. I obviously want to interview him, so I interview him, and then I reached out to him again to follow up about his book, because he was going to release his book. And
There's
yeah, good, cool. Hi, Christine.
Hey, how are y'all?
We're doing well.
That's right.
So you do that. We're in the middle of a story right now, Christiane, about Tyler's wife getting a publishing deal.
Oh, fabulous. I'm listening in. Continue.
Sorry, Tyler.
No, you're fine. So I can't remember, honestly, if it was Darren or if it was Amy that reached out to who. Obviously, they would know better. But basically, Darren was, looking for a fiction book to publish, and he hadn't gone that route. And so he submitted to Amy submitted her book to him, and he said, sure. Now, Darren's publishing company is a little bit different. He mainly focuses on, Christian thought leaders and helps them get their message out, obviously. But he doesn't have he doesn't do the traditional publishing where he does all the upfront stuff, where he takes on. I don't know how it all works, all the publishing stuff. But the short story is that Amy's going to work with them about getting published and getting the book out and so forth. So by Christmas it should be out, and it's going to be exciting. And it's going to be a workbook along with it as well. She's working
Okay,
on that.
now I looked up. I looked up. You said that he was doing a podcast.
Yeah, Darren's doing a podcast. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I see. I put in barking for Jesus, and I got howling trains and barking dogs. Let Jesus do the talking.
No, marketing like Jesus.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah,
Well,
that word "like" is a pretty big word right there.
Yeah.
Makes a difference.
Marketing like.
Jackie, if he's talking about dogs, then you might could go back to your.
Forget that.
I
No,
know.
talking about.
Well,
I found it.
well, we got a couple of other people who are probably going to be heading in a little bit. Christy, I want to talk to you. Your mic's muted, but I want to talk to you a little bit. You have just been a blaze of fire this last month. I put you on the hot seat and said that I'd be catching up on you and making sure that you got some things done. Woman, you have not stopped moving since last month.
You're correct.
So you're driving even as we speak. Be careful, please.
Yes. Well, I'm just finishing up a sorority event with my daughter, and so I looked at the time and I'm like, oh, I'll try and jump on real quick, see if this thing works for my phone.
Well, it does.
It works.
What app you guys do you use to do this on a phone? Just the Google plus sign app?
Yeah, Google Hangouts is what I what I did for the app.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, so that's what I'm on right now, and I'm assuming it's using my Wi-Fi or not Wi-Fi, my data plan.
It
But
is.
you know, what do I know? I'm like, I don't care, just do it anyway.
Well, tell us a little bit about what you've been up to since the second Wednesday of last month.
Well, I'm hoping to actually submit my iTunes or submit my podcast to iTunes by the end of this week. That's my goal. It may not happen until first part of next week, but the goal is sooner rather than later. And I've lined up now. I've done 2 podcast interviews, of which one is part of a Get Fit virtual event that
Cool.
just launched.
She just changed cells.
Yeah, I know.
Yep, the cell towers just changed. We'll see if we can catch up.
This all on my own. Oh,
We lost you. We lost you during part of it. Oop, you're out of the 4G network, Christiane.
Oh, I'm not.
I can see her.
Now we can see you. Oh!
Are there?
Yeah, barely. It's made for interesting video, I'll say that.
I guess tells you how Hangouts is.
Jason, did you leave?
Jason's
I'm still
here. Jason, tell us about you, Jason, while Christiane's trying to get her voice working.
Well, where do you start? I shared a link to my newest project that I'm working on the Facebook group.
Tyler, we met Jason at Podcast Movement. Or I met Jason at Podcast Movement. I don't know if you did or not.
What's your podcast going to be?
Well, he has one about teaching the Bible. Are you going to discontinue it, Jason?
Well, it's actually about teaching teachers or learning to teach.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
That one, it's still good as it is. I'm not totally sure what I want to do with that. It will fit into the education ministries that I'm working on.
Mm-hmm.
And so depending on my ideas right now, I've got 2 main areas. And depending on the popularity of any part of those, in the future there could be another, I guess, breakout podcast that just focuses on a particular thing. But right now I'm going to still do the teaching, learning to teach kind of thing, but within the education ministries.
Cool. Now, Jason and I have an interesting connection, and we discussed it a little bit today. I used to work at a radio station in a little bitty town about 50 miles north of Tuscaloosa, actually about 50 miles away from any civilization known to man, called when I started was WWWF. Thank God, just shortly after that, it changed its call letters to WLDX. But it's kind of interesting that we came from that same neck of the woods, and that eventually he ended up in seminary and I ended up in seminary, two different ones, and we both got basically the same degree, the Master of Art Christian Education. So it's kind of interesting we connect back together through podcasting. But,
it's very interesting. And by the way, that group that you joined for WLDX, I made that like 2-3 years ago, and hardly anyone was in there. But then when I added our former boss, Eloise Tomley, all of a sudden she invited a whole bunch of people, and now it's become an active group.
Well, good. Well, I'm glad Eloise has jumped in there. I'm not going to say too much about my relationship with her at that radio station, but I'm glad she's jumped in there. Now, I wanted to know if you guys would be interested in seeing something I'm working on about content marketing, and I'm working on actually a course to help you guys as podcasters and bloggers supporting your podcast figure out ways to develop content for your blog part of your podcast, and even use some of these principles even use some of these principles in your podcasting. Would you be interested in something like that?
Sure.
Tyler?
I'm always willing to take a look, Phil.
I wasn't planning on blogging.
Well,
yeah, I don't plan on. I'm not a blogger, Phil. Okay?
Well, I know that.
I'm not a blogger.
But your wife
no,
is.
No offense to bloggers.
Well, here's the thing. To help increase traffic to hello, Ray. I'm glad you finally made it in. To help increase your traffic to your website, it helps to have content. That's one of the reasons why I got into show notes, is because the content on your website is the information that Google uses to find your website.
Right.
And then to promulgate your website across through their web searches. So you've got to have something on your website that makes Google go, this is an interesting website.
Show notes would do that, wouldn't it? Wouldn't the show notes
do what?
Show notes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Show notes will do that, but you still need some other content from time to time to show them that you're not just about your podcast.
Oh.
And so it always helps, even if it's just 300 to 600 words a post. It helps to have extra content on there so that other people can come. It gives keywords and the whole 9 yards so that Google can find your website and then show it to other people. So the advantage there by having content on your website is that you are using words, text, which is Google's main search. You're using words and text to be able to attract other people to your website so that they can find your podcast and your other offerings and be able to join your community. And so the idea is that the more content you have that is good, usable content for the reader or for the listener, the more content you have, the more hooks you have in the water. The more hooks you have in the water, the more people you're going to reel in. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yep.
So I've been doing a little bit of research, actually probably a good bit of research, and and working on this course that I'm almost ready to roll out. But I want to point out something. It's similar to what you guys were talking about just a few minutes ago about your podcast, about sharing guests. And we all know, most of us are in, is anyone in here not in podcast paradise? You're not?
I'm not.
Okay. Well, Jason, one of the things that John Lee really promotes is sharing your podcast. In other words, invite people on to your podcast who are going to be able to share their audience with you. And you share your audience with them.
Okay, yeah.
By doing that, you grow your podcast more quickly. The big caveat there is if they share it with their audience. And I don't know if any of you guys have noticed, but sometimes that's not an easy task to accomplish. So to help boost that and to help increase your audience so that other possible guests see that you have a bigger audience and you're worthwhile being on, worthy of being on your podcast, then you need to draw people into your website, let them find the podcast naturally, and then go from there. So I want.
Hey, Phil.
Yes, sir.
Phil, can I jump in on this real quick?
Yeah, please.
So I can kind of back a little bit of this up, maybe coming from a different direction.
Okay.
But I've had on my podcast, let's see, 1, 2, 3. I've had 3 bloggers, okay, people that write Christian blogs on my podcast. Actually 4. I take that back. I've had 4. And they have, after I've posted their interview, obviously they've gone back out to their audience and wrote about the interview that I had with them. And guess whose interviews are almost at the top of my list?
I would guess that it would be the bloggers.
The bloggers.
Yep.
Exactly.
And and Matt, that's why Matt's is doing so well, because he had the blog.
He's got the blog. So, anyways, it's just a different angle, because obviously they're like your concept about the content and the words, and also they have that built-in audience already that they, have already reached. So, anyway, it's just I think it's unique what you're talking about right now. So well, continue on.
I actually started blogging. Gosh, when I was in seminary between 1996 and 2000. My first blogging platform was, I'm trying to remember the name of it, Movable Type. And then Movable Type decided it was free, and then they decided they'd charge, and so they started this, because they got so many people blasting them, they started this online version of Movable Type called TypePad. Some of you may have heard of TypePad. And so, Jackie, will you do me a favor and send the link to this to Regina Drury? Because somehow she's on the other side, not on the inside.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. But I've been blogging off and on since 97 or 8. So I understand the power of blogging, and I understand the power of building an audience, and you can do it with a podcast, you can do it with a blog, so why not do both and build it much more quickly? And so that's what I'm going to be talking about today. Christy, you are driving, so you're probably not going to be able to see this very well, but I'm recording this and it's going to be on YouTube, so we'll see what we can do to get this to you as well. I'm going to show I've got 10 ways to use content marketing to grow your audience. And so I'm going to start with the second one, and we'll go from I would just want to do the second one today. Can all of y'all see that?
Yes.
It says strategy 2, content marketing. Good. So the first tip is going to be, I'm going to talk about it at another time. But the second one is content marketing, and that means that you are producing and posting contents with links back to your site in order to build an audience. So I don't know how much you recognize that the more links you have back to your website, the more Google likes your website. It respects you when you have respectable websites linking back to yours. And so when you are able to, just same way with podcasting, when you're able to share your audiences, it helps you in a bunch of different ways.
Yeah.
And so,
Phil, I got a question.
Okay.
I've got a question. What does that mean when you say a link back to your site? I don't understand.
Okay. If someone, for instance, when you're blogging, when you're interviewing someone who blogs, when they send you a link back to your website, when they say, hey, I had this great interview with Tyler McCart at the Success Edge for Christians, and they send the link back to your interview, that's a link back to your site. So the more links back to your site that you have,
is that called a backlink?
It is a backlink.
Okay, explain how that, I wasn't totally focusing, sorry.
That's all right.
Explain what a backlink is exactly again.
Okay. Anytime that you have content on another website, it could be a forum, it could be someone else's blog as a guest blog post, it could be someone that you interviewed posting a link back to your site. Then
okay, gotcha.
Whenever you do that, Google goes, someone liked something on his website or her website. Let me go back and check it out and see what that is. And so the more respectable a website is in Google's eyes, audience size, links back to their website, other things that's in their algorithm, the more respectable your website begins. So if you can produce and post some content with links back to your website, you will grow an audience because Google will rank you higher. And not only that, they're sharing their audience with you by that link. So, you've got the podcast content, and it's the same idea there. You're sharing audiences with your podcast. Hopefully, your guest will share a link. If they don't,
that's
Tyler, are you calling me again?
No, Regina's trying to come in.
Okay.
That's what Pat Flynn's hangout was on tonight. Is he had a backlink expert.
Yeah. So you need to make sure that your content is not promotional. You're not writing hey, come listen to my podcast.
Right.
You're writing an article that says, on my podcast, guest so-and-so taught me this about this subject. It needs to be something that helps people solve their problems, something you can teach or just entertaining and funny. So you need to make sure that it's something that somebody, when they lay their eyes on, they're going to read, they're going to be interested in.
Got it.
So and you can get that look, you've got tons and tons of content every time you post a podcast. If you'll go look at the show notes that I've been doing for Jordan Agoli, for Valerie Shootman, for Chris Saron, and for the others that I've been doing show notes for recently, one of the discussions I've just had with one of my clients is the ability to repurpose that in segments. And what I mean is there's tons and tons of information. Go look. I mean, shoot, the notes are 4, 5, 6 pages long. So take out some of that content and build a blog post out of it, and write around it, and just leave that content in there in the middle, and then you've got a nice little blog post with a link to your podcast, number one, and a link to your website, number two. This is my wife. Hold on one second. Yes, ma'am. Hey, baby. Do what? I'm feeling okay. I'm doing my Hangout right now.
Oh, okay.
I love you.
No, you're okay. Love you.
Okay, bye-bye. She just wanted to see if I was okay.
It's nice to be loved.
Yes, it is. And so you want to write something that is not, hey, come to my website. Hey, come see my blog post. Hey, come listen to my podcast. It needs to be something that informs, educates, or entertains. So, it needs to be valuable, basically. That's the aim of your content. And so the first thing you need to do is you need to decide what kind of content to create by studying your target market and then brainstorming topics. And by that, I mean going on to forums or other websites or Facebook groups where people that you're wanting to reach out to would hang out. Watching what they say, listening to what they complain about, finding out the pain points in their life, and then start thinking about different topics that you could write about that could attract them. By the way, Facebook is a great place to have links back to your website. So guess what you do? You write a note in your Facebook page and share the links with it in each one of those groups. And now you've built links back to your website, back to your podcast.
Oh, okay.
And then I posted this in the Christian Podcasters Mastermind group, an article about your editorial calendar. You need to create a calendar for creating and publishing your content and post on a regular basis. The more often you post, the more often Google finds your website. And so, for instance, For instance, let's say that I start doing a podcast again and I interview Jason about what he's doing. And I write a long show note about Jason. And then I find some interesting information that I might be able to pass along to a certain group of people. Then I write that blog post based on the content that I got from him, quoting him, providing a link to his website to help him as well, but I also provide a link back to my website and a link back to that podcast interview with him.
You're talking about your calendar in your Gmail account?
It doesn't have to be a Gmail calendar, no. As long as it is a calendar to help remind you that you need to create and publish content. So you're saying Google has access to your calendar? No. Google, when you post new content on your website, Google is alerted.
Oh,
especially if you have Google Analytics built into your website.
Okay, gotcha.
So Google is alerted. But the reason why you want to establish an editorial calendar is because, number one, it keeps your feet to the fire, like I was talking with Christiane and Regina last month. And so you've got a schedule. It also helps you because you're able to say, well, this is not my busy day, so I can do some of this work on my busy day. But the cool thing is...
Phillip, if I can jump in, rather than talking about it as a calendar, talk about it as a plan.
Yeah, exactly.
If there's 20 working days a month, you may choose to promote different kinds of content on certain days of the month.
Exactly.
So every Monday may be a blog post, and every Wednesday may be a Facebook survey. So on different days of the month, you may choose to apply different types of content. And what the editorial calendar does is let you know what the plan is for the week or for the month, right, and let you adhere to it.
And the cool thing about this is Michael Hyatt does exactly what Ray's saying. Michael posts 1 or 2 blog posts a week. That's all. And he has 1 podcast a week. That's all. That's his calendar. He knows when those things come up, but he has to have this plan, this editorial calendar, to help him be on track, to know what he's writing about, who he's interviewing, or what he's going to be talking about on the podcast, and how to, if necessary, tie those things together. The other thing is I may have interviewed Jason 2 months ago, but his podcast isn't coming out till 2 weeks from now. So I don't want to post anything on my blog that says anything about Jason's interview until I've aired his podcast. So it helps me. I go on and write it. I have it ready. I put it in WordPress and schedule it. But I'm not having to scramble to get stuff out because I've got a plan. And so you've got articles and blog posts that you can write that should focus only on one topic. And the suggestion is to use templates. I'll tell you where to go get the best templates. And that's at Michael Hyatt's website. I'll have to find the link to it, but Michael has some great templates for for blog post. And they're great little templates to have. I may have them in my Evernote. If I do, I'll make sure that I provide a link to that on the Christian Podcasters Mastermind. Plus, you've got other video you can make out of your podcast and out of your blog post. Guess what the second biggest search engine is?
Video.
YouTube.
Oh, YouTube.
YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world. So when you post videos to YouTube and the very first thing you do is post a link to your website, guess what Google's going to do?
Link
They're
it.
going to go look at your website again, and they're going to rank it even higher. Google loves ranking video content. So if you get an interview with Jason and you have information on there that is usable, you might take a snippet of that out, make a 2 to 3 minute video on YouTube about your podcast and provide a link to the podcast and then have them come to your website. So, use video content to cross-promote your website and your podcast. Make sure that you're writing eye-catching titles. I was reading somewhere just the other day, your title should not be longer than 8 words. Guess what that means? That means you're going to have to spend a lot of time writing a title in 8 words or less that catches the eye. You want to keep a consistent schedule. That's the reason for the calendar, to make sure you're being honest to yourself and to your audience for releasing information. Make sure you offer variety. Repurpose your information. That's what I was talking about with the podcast and repurposing that information. And add tags and keywords and include a call to action. Now, call to action could be a lot of different things. The call to action that you could do is go back and listen to that podcast and then have a link to the podcast. Or maybe it's come to my website and sign up for my email list and get this freebie that I'm giving away on developing your content or whatever it may be. And so, we need to do that. Then, in getting started, you need to brainstorm an ideas list for your content. You don't, my wife posted a quote today, I think it was, about brainstorms, and I can't remember. But anyway, the gist of it was a brainstorm has no value whatsoever until you get an action storm behind it. So brainstorm a whole bunch of different ideas that you could write to meet the needs of those people you're trying to reach. And then sort of build a tentative schedule. You may get ambitious like I did when I launched my first podcast a few months ago, and I'm going to do it 5 days a week. Woo-hoo-hoo. I'm big bad and everything else. And then get a third shift job working 12 hours a night, and guess where that schedule goes? Out the window. You also want to identify websites that you think have quality content and see how you might be able to emulate them. And then create one piece of content and then post it. Now, why just one piece of content? Anybody have any ideas?
It allows you to get feedback, and also you can measure better if you're not oversaturating with the content.
You don't want to post more than one piece of content at a time, because then you're not going to know what your analytics is really trying to show you. And I've told some of you before, I like Brian Harris's idea. He measures the success of his website by the number of emails he gets registered for his email list each week. So, you won't know how one post is doing if you have 3 or 4 that you released at the same time. So create one piece of content and then post it and see what happens. So does that help any of you, give you any ideas, anything you might want to talk about now that you've seen some of that information? And excuse me for the cough again. Any questions or?
Hey, I want to ask Regina, how's your podcast going?
I was about to ask that.
I just checked a couple hours ago, and up to like 225 downloads.
Awesome.
As of today, really this afternoon. So.
Regina, that's really good, isn't it?
When did you release it?
I'm sorry, what?
When did you release the podcast?
Monday.
So you released it Monday. 2 days later, 225. Welcome back, Tyler.
Have you been promoting it, Regina?
Yeah, I have. My next episode will release tomorrow morning. So I'm doing a Monday, Thursday thing. So
cool.
But yeah, I've been trying to promote it a little bit on Twitter. I don't have a whole lot of Twitter followers right now, but I've been trying to promote it a lot on Facebook, as much as I can. And my interview that I did on Sarah Spears, the parentalist, it came out today. So I'm hoping, she just sent me an email, and she's in New Zealand, so she just sent me an email a little while ago that said it was it posted and everything. So I'm getting ready to start promoting that out, and maybe that'll kind of help as well. So.
She's got a great voice, doesn't she, guys? Yeah.
So, so all you've really been doing to promote it is Facebook and Twitter?
So far.
Now, didn't you build a group on Facebook in support of your podcast?
Not yet. I am a member of a ton of multiples groups already. So I've been promoting them in the individual groups, and then my local high order multiples group, which also has quads and sextuplets and everything in it. Wow. They have each decided to promote it in their quad groups and in their quint groups and sextuplet groups. So it's been, since I can't get into those because I only have triplets.
Right.
So they've been promoting in those groups for me. So.
That's awesome.
So, Ray, what's your podcast?
It's the Small Business School podcast. I'm interviewing entrepreneurs, small business owners, as well as business coaches and sales coaches and other people that help them build their businesses. The intention really is to reach people who are on the fence about starting a business, maybe moving out of the corporate world, or people who actually have a business and maybe aren't getting as much traction. By exposing them to some of the challenges that other small business owners have, may give them ideas and insights that they can apply in their own businesses.
Regina, that'd be a good connection once he really gets rocking for your video thing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that'd be kind of cool.
Definitely. I launched the Wednesday before Labor Day. I put the initial episodes out with new episodes every Monday. So this past Monday was the first regularly released Monday episode.
And what's it called? Because I'm going to do a bunch of reviews tomorrow. I asked everybody in Podcast Paradise to PM me their links.
Well, definitely, I'd appreciate it. If you go to smallbusinesscool, COOL.com,
yep.
/iTunes, that'll take you to the iTunes page.
Yep. Small Business Cool. I remember that now. Yeah, Regina does videography of small businesses in her area and puts them up on YouTube and websites and stuff like that.
Well, as a service provider, that would be kind of interesting. And again, it's to provide tips. There's a reason why she does that, along with Phillip's message tonight about content. Getting her to talk about the importance of small businesses promoting their business through their content, their web content, is an opportunity, and that does make her a potential guest. So.
Yeah, she's a great person to interview for something like that.
Now, Tyler, you're doing your 10x7 group, which is an accountability group. Talk a little bit about your progress and some roadblocks and what you're learning along the process of this.
So, from this Christian podcast Mastermind, I got called out to say I needed to start a accountability group. Actually, Miss Jackie Smith was the one that was the initial fire starter with that. Thank you very much, Jackie Smith. And that is just Miss Jackie is a idea woman. Tell you, a woman is full of ideas. Just hang around Jackie; she will give you an idea. Este muy pronto, and usually it's from the Holy Spirit, so it's pretty good, you know. So anyway, they, Phil and Jackie challenged me to actually start a what we initially called it a 7x10 club, and where that we'd have for 7 weeks we'd have 10 individuals or 10 guys, men, be on this basically journey, and so some of the challenges that I've had is obviously, honestly, I probably could have promoted it a whole lot better to my audience and actually to other areas. I didn't do that well. I did not fill all 10 slots. I only filled 3 slots for this, and I decided to not charge anything either for it. So some of the, because it's a small group, what's interesting, obviously, is when you have a small group, if 2 people decide not to show up, then it's just you and one other person. So there is sometimes there's safety numbers.
Yeah.
And so it's just basically been the first attempt at this with my podcast. We'll just see kind of how the Lord allows and leads to do it again. And I believe we're in week number 6 or 5, actually.
5.
Yeah, 5. So, yeah.
I missed last week because my wife was getting ready for a test that wasn't too comfortable. I mean, it's not too bad, but.
Hey, Regina, I just looked up your podcast. I can't find it on iTunes.
Well, and I posted in Podcasters Paradise too. I had some issues with, if you have the podcast app on your phone, the episodes are coming through fine. Okay. But if you go to iTunes, nothing's showing up. I mean, the podcast is there, but no episodes were showing up.
I can't even find the podcast tonight.
Multiple personalities?
Yeah, there's other names with that. Multiple personality disorder.
I am under kids and family.
Well, I didn't go into I just put it in under podcast, so it should bring it up.
Let me see if I can find it real quick.
iTunes, Apple is aware they're having a problem with iTunes and podcasting. I don't know if you saw what John Lee posted.
Yeah, I did. I didn't know if they had fixed it or not yet.
No, it's not fixed yet.
Oh, it's not? Okay.
So they're working on it. They know they've got a problem. So
okay.
But it should show up. I mean, like I said, the podcast was there. It just wasn't. There just weren't any episodes.
Right.
Tyler had mentioned that he uses Buzzsprout, that it's a Christian company. So I was thinking I'd use them because of that. And he's happy with them.
Well,
who's that?
It's not an issue of Libsyn or any of that.
I knew that. Yeah, I'm just talking in general.
It's just that they're having a problem reading the RSS feeds for some reason. They know it's a problem. They know they're working on it. They just haven't discovered what's happened.
Hey, Regina, real quick. Is you got like 3 little kids on here? Looks like a purple background.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Now I see it.
Yeah, that's me.
I
Phillip, can you check the queue?
It on my iPod.
Casey's having a problem getting in.
Who?
Casey
Green?
It was Regina, just so you know, is the first one that pulled up on my
Yep,
search.
mine too. Yep, she was the first one on mine too.
Oh, okay. Cool.
I don't know what to tell him. I sent him the link.
I had a little problem too because, and I have to reinstall the software on my machine. But it was doing it as a Hangout, or typical Hangout on air, without the invitation to come in. So, the first 2 times I tried to do that. I'm wondering if he actually has access to, if he doesn't have the Hangout software installed on his machine, it won't allow him to join the chat.
Well, I have discovered that it's best to go on and start the Hangout and then send the invites, because if you don't, then the problem is you send them basically to the YouTube side instead of the Google Hangout side.
That's, I think, what happened.
And so that's why I sent a second invite out to everybody, is because I discovered that. So I apologize. I now have learned the lesson. This hopefully will solve the problem we had last month, which was very interesting in getting everybody in, until we didn't get everybody in that was here until like 7:40 or 50. So maybe we'll have solved that problem.
Hey everyone, I'm going to run put the girls to bed, and I will be right back.
I was hoping that, well, hurry back because we like talking to you.
Will do. I'll do my best.
There's Christy. I was about to say I'm hoping Christy would be back. She looks like she's at home now. So Christy, pick up the story where you left off and talk to us about your progress this month.
Oh gosh. Okay, so where did you last hear?
Oh gosh, that was a while ago. I think the last we heard is that you were working on building your group. I think that's what it was.
Okay, yeah. So I went ahead and did the. I'm like I said with the podcast. I'm going to hope to launch it by the end of this week. The group is the Get Fit virtual event that launched today, and it's a 21-day event, so that was exciting. I have 2 other possible interviews set up along with another one, so I'm kind of pre-interviewing tomorrow for this. 2 possibilities are radio shows, so it's a little bit different take versus a podcast. And then I started my blog this week. I'm basically going online now. I'm launching my online business as a whole, everything, the whole ball of wax.
That's got to have been a huge undertaking in 30 days. Tell us a little bit about some of the trials and hurdles you've had to overcome in getting this thing off the ground, literally, in 30 days.
A lot of it has just been being very intentional with my time, and everything that I did was very strategic. And so there were some things that I, had to put on the back burner, and then other things I brought to the forefront, etc. And so it was really a juggling act. It wasn't about balance. It was about flexibility. And I kind of learned it the hard way, because when you're in the trenches, you kind of do it. But it's worked out so far, and it's not perfect, but it's doing, and it's, I'm out there. So I think that's the main important part.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, you decided to use Wishlist. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, I did Wishlist on a WordPress platform, yes.
Tell us a little bit about that, because I don't know, some of us may be trying to figure out how to build a paywall to have a higher level group on our website or in our platform. So talk to us, how did you decide on Wishlist, and how has it been using and installing?
Well, there's always a learning curve for me because I'm not a programmer. And so I did just a lot of reviewing myself, a lot of reading. I saw, for my area, Wishlist, a lot of people use Wishlist for memberships and subscriptions, for those who are wondering what it is. And my whole online training portion is obviously membership-based. So I have to have some form of, software to do that. And so Wishlist was reasonably priced, and that's what allowed me just to kind of, jump into it and go from there.
And then you had a few hurdles there with lead pages. and you got those taken care of. Your lead page looks awesome.
Oh, thank you.
And so tell us how, overall, what was your biggest hurdle to overcome to get this done in 30 days? I'll be honest with you, Christy, I had no idea you would get this much accomplished in 30 days.
Well, you have to understand, though, this has been almost a year. Well, the whole idea came together March of 2013. And so I've been kind of figuring it all out, like what I want on my website, everything, this whole time I've been writing it. So it didn't just happen in a blink of an eye. There's been a lot of preparation, but the launching of it, yes, happened in 30 days. And I think a lot of it comes down to is, number one, have a plan, but have a backup plan. and know that when you're doing things, give yourself, if you think you can get it done tomorrow, you may need to extend it to one more day. And especially with those, and most of us have families and children involved, and which I do, it's real important to be very, very strategic about your time. And so when you can have that concentrated effort, if that's from 11 o'clock at night to 12 midnight, then that's where you need to focus. And that's where you need to bang it out during that time if you're busy the other time. So it's really figuring what works for your schedule. And also I would say mute everything else that you hear out there from what everybody else is saying in their launches. This is your launch. This is your business. Don't compare, and know that it's going to happen as it needs to happen. And it's okay if you're a day late or a week short. It's all right. You're going to get there.
I agree.
I wholeheartedly agree. Matter of fact, I would like to encourage you to, is that Carrie, Ray? Is that Carrie saying he's not being allowed to come in?
That might be Casey. Casey, I think.
Okay. I don't know why I've given him an invite.
And I copied the URL from the window and sent it as well.
Wow. Let me go back to what I was saying. Andy Stanley preached a sermon, 5 or 6, 7 months ago, a whole series of sermons on comparing, and he called it the Ers. And he said, don't worry about whether you're bigger, better, or whatever it is. That's not the business that you're in. You're in the business of being the best you can be. And if you compare yourself to other people, you're always not going to measure up to someone. So, right. Christy, I think that is awesome advice, to not look at what other people are doing for their launch, how they talked about what they did for their launch, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Your words were, it is your launch, so make it yours.
Yeah, thanks for that. Then, also I think sometimes we as podcasters, from a podcasting point of view, I think we get trapped in the numbers. Also, like, oh, how many downloads or how many of this? You know what? I'm excited when I get my first download. Even if it's my best friend who did it, it's the first download. So I think celebrate each moment that happens, because you're never going to get this back. And you might as well enjoy the journey, because it's a journey. It's not a destination, it's a journey.
I agree completely. And I'm typing while I'm doing this so I can get Carrie in here. Give me just a minute. Okay. Now let's see if we can get him in. I agree completely with what you're saying. I want you to, I will be honest with you, I got terribly, terribly discouraged when I was running my podcast before I had to let it go because of my other job, because I didn't see the audience that I thought I should see or would see, and I didn't see the audience that other people were talking about. But I needed to understand that, first off, my niche was a very small niche. My niche was ministers, pastors, leaders in churches. And first off, that's a small percentage of the population, very small percentage of the population. Secondly, it's an even smaller percentage of the population of people who listen to podcasts. And so I needed to get my head checked because I was forgetting that. Folks who are interviewing entrepreneurs and doing that, there's a much broader audience than that, than those who are just listening for encouragement for pastors or listening to interviews with other pastors. And so, I really lost focus because I started comparing and playing the game. So that's one thing that I really want to encourage you guys. Your audience is your audience, and be happy for each and every one in that group, and learn that it's your responsibility to serve them because they're giving you your time, or giving you their time, rather. So, Christy, I want to commend you. Was he not able to get in, Ray?
Still not able to get in. I'm going to try to send him the invite from my end.
Okay.
Where's the email link?
I sent him one to his email address. I don't know what happened. Well, let me ask you a question. I got two main questions for you tonight. The first one is Wednesday night a good time for you guys? I know we had discussion about being late because of children and other things like that. I want to honor your time. I want to make it valuable for you, but I also want to make it at a time that is good for you. So if Wednesday night's not a good time, what time is?
I don't think it exists.
Yeah. Okay, then what time can you make available that will make it valuable for you? Is Wednesday night okay?
I think it's okay. One of the things, Philip, if you could, I've got to put it on the calendar. I saw the note today. I was wondering when the next one was, but saw the note.
It's always the second Wednesday of the month.
That'll help me just keeping that locked in mind.
Okay. And I do need to send out notifications, but it's like I said, I tried to send out a notification from Google, and it put everybody on the other side of the screen over on YouTube side instead of the Google Hangout side. And the only way I can do the Google Hangout is to actually have the Hangout started. So I've got to figure out a way to do that and make it more effective.
So you said it's the first or the second Wednesday?
Second Wednesday of the month.
Oh, okay.
Because this is the 10th.
Gotcha.
But it's the second Wednesday of the month at 7:30 Central. So stay at this time. Is that okay?
It's okay for me.
I think so.
Okay. How about the new guys? Is that okay for y'all? Jason?
That works for me.
Yeah, I think that works for me too.
Okay.
I mean, if during the day is out, because of folks being busy, I actually have more time during the day. But
yeah.
It's just that we never know what our days are going to bring.
Right. You're right. And that's one of the reasons why I like this time, because I'm able to go to prayer meeting at church and then come back and get on the air and do this and then go rest. The second thing is do you think that little training segment was okay? Did you get anything out of it? Is it worthwhile to repeat later on?
Well, I think it would help if before we do our once a month deal.
Yeah.
Is we need to post what we're going to talk about ahead of time so people can come with questions.
I was planning on doing that. I've been fighting bronchitis like crazy this week, and when I get off the air, I'm going straight to bed. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. I mean, it's been just a rough week for me this week, and so I'm going to go take my meds and lay down and go to sleep. My wife will be happy to know that. But
right.
But do you think does it have value? Did it help? Did it give you any ideas?
I learned what a backlink is.
Okay.
Philip, you didn't hear me. I said that's what happens when you get old.
Well, tell me about it. I turned 50 Monday.
I had mine earlier in the year, and I'm feeling it.
Wasn't that podcast movement, Ray?
No, I was not. But
okay, your doppelganger was there.
Well, I got a couple of them, so people don't believe that there's clones. They're there.
Ray, are you in your 50s?
Turned 50 in February.
Oh, okay. Cool.
So, Christy, you and Regina are the young girls in the group.
I don't feel very young.
Tyler's young.
Well, you don't feel very young because you've had absolutely no sleep this last month.
That's right.
But well, guys, it's almost 9 o'clock, and I want to honor your time. Let me have a quick, Regina. We just finished. We're starting to wrap up. But I will ask you, Regina, were you here when I did the little presentation on content creation, Regina?
Ask her again. I don't think she heard it.
Were you here when I did the presentation on content creation?
I got about half of it.
Okay.
That was during the time I was trying to get back on.
Is any of it worthy of doing something like that again?
Probably. I'd like to hear the beginning.
Well, I actually am recording, and it should be on YouTube, so we'll be able. I'll edit a bunch of the stuff off the front, and then we'll have it ready and up on the air, and I'll post a link on the Facebook page. But let me close with a word of prayer. Okay. I ask of thee any prayer request, first and foremost.
Healing.
Ray needs healing. Anyone else?
How about we pray for each other's businesses?
That works too.
And each other's families too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm having some issues with one of my daughters that I'd like some prayer about.
Okay. Tyler, anything from South Carolina?
I'm good to go, man. Blessed and highly favored, baby.
Okay. Christy, Jason, any prayer requests from your end of the world?
I'm good.
Okay.
Well, I liked what they said earlier about the businesses and family. So, yeah, I'll toss my hat into that.
Y'all pray that my lungs empty out of all this junk.
I'm going to pray that you quit drinking all that pop for your diabetes.
I'm not drinking pop, thank you. This is water with strawberry flavoring from Walmart.
Proud of you.
Thank you very much, because it's got extra caffeine and stuff in it, so I can stay awake.
Get him, Mama Jackie. You get him, Mama Jackie.
Right.
So let's pray, and then
while I drink my Coke.
There you go. Thank you, Jackie. Do what I say, not what I do.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Well, let's pray, and then I'll let y'all go. Y'all have a good night. Heavenly Father, God, I do pray for each and every one of the men and women in this group. Lord, for those who didn't get in, and hopefully we can overcome those hurdles next month. But Father, I just ask that you be with each and every one of these people, with Tyler, with Regina, with Ray, with Christy, with Jason, and with Jackie and myself. God, that you would bless our families, bless our work, bless our businesses. Father, that you would give us favor among men. And God, that you would open up our eyes and our hearts and our minds to the wisdom from above, and that our steps would be measured by your guidance. And Father, that you would give us a light unto our path and a lamp unto our feet. And you already have done that through your word. And so, Lord, we rely on your word. We rely on your Holy Spirit and the presence of Jesus and your presence in and around our lives, God, that we might be able to accomplish the things that you've placed in front of us and be able to go and be blessed and give testimony and testify of the power of God in our lives, in our businesses, in our families, in our health, in all the areas of what we exist here on earth. And Father, until the time you deem fit to send your Son to call us all back to heaven, help us to give every bit of ourselves to your work, to your ministry, to your kingdom. And Lord, when we do that, we know that we will receive blessing and favor above all blessing and favor, because it's in your word. And in your Son's name we pray these things, asking for them to be granted. Amen.
Amen.
By the way, let me give you an update on Show Notes Guy. I am now up to 7 clients, which is halfway to my cap. So, and truthfully, Tyler knows this, and I posted a little bit of it on Facebook. I had a big, huge social networking, social proof feather that got stuck in my cap and then taken away. I'm not going to call his name. If I did, just about everyone in this group would know it. But Tuesday of last week, he was there. Friday of last week, he was gone. And it really just took the air out of my sails completely. But here's the funny thing. I was honest on Facebook about losing the wind in my sail a little bit, about being flustered about it. And you know, the weird thing about it is one of my clients totally unrequested posted just an amazing review of my services on Podcasters Paradise. And out of that, I've had 3 new clients. Yep. And Lou Dondero just, I mean, totally, completely amazed me with what he said and how he went about that, because I did not ask for that. That had to have been completely from God's prompting. So God took what was really going to be a major disaster and replaced every single dollar that I was going to get from this big, huge client.
That, you know, but that, being in sales my whole life, I mean, that's just what happens, Phil. You get, you know, and the bigger the clients, the harder they fall.
Well, and the other thing is I've been nice to him. I was going through his middleman, and I've been talking to him. I actually sent him a sample of what my show notes would have looked like for his show earlier this week and said, I look forward to the day when I can serve you. But if nothing ever happens with it, he at least knows that I'm not going to badmouth him.
Right. So you never had him as a client anyway.
Well, there was a payment that was taken back. So I had him as a client, and then I didn't.
Gotcha.
But that's okay. It's cool. So, you know, I'm okay with it. God used it to teach me a huge lesson. And so I've taken that lesson to heart. And I thank a few of you who jumped in and chimed in and gave me some encouraging words as well. God used you at an appropriate time as well. So thank you very much. Keep praying that Show Notes Guy will be able to do all the things that I need to do in a timely manner and still stay healthy. I'm working on some things to be able to streamline some of the process. And I'm also working on this content creation teaching, training to sort of do a little bit of what Christy is doing behind a paywall to be able to create some extra revenue for myself as well. Tyler left. You are all free to leave. You have a great night, and if you need me for anything, you can contact me on Facebook. I'll give you my Skype number, my phone number. It don't matter. But if you need me for anything, you feel free to ask. If I don't know, I know how to look it up.
Well, nice to meet you, Ray and Jason and Christy in person.
It's good to meet you all too.
Yeah.
Next month rather. Look forward to it.
And we may start doing some other smaller things along the way when people hop on and say, hey, I need some help, and just do some training stuff online. I know I've had a number of people ask me, hey, what do I need to do with this? And I just do a little screen thing. I may do it rather than through Skype, through Google+, and then that way have the content.
Yeah, that'd be good. I'd be happy to help. Any web design stuff I can kind of talk you through, particularly WordPress. That's the day job, so I don't mind helping with that too.
Cool. So. Well, y'all have a good night. Hey. Christy, did you change cameras?
Who?
Are you on the computer now?
No, I'm still on my phone.
Oh, okay. It looks sideways now. I don't know.
I did. See, that's upright, and now I'm sideways.
Okay, I got you. Okay. Well,
all right, guys. Have a good night.
Have a good night, Ray.
Good night. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank y'all. Bye.
Blessings.